The Boston Red Sox are an absolute roller coaster. After dropping 2 of 3 games to the A's in Oakland, Boston heads back home to face the Mets and the Braves at home. Can the Red Sox turn around and stay in the wild card race? Find out on today's episode of Locked On Red Sox.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your Monday through Friday Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast, here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, as we are definitely feeling frustrated. I woke up pretty angry this morning at the way that things went down with this team when they were in Oakland. It was obviously not an ideal series by any stretch of the word. So on this episode, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a vent session in case you want to participate in that as well. I'm sure some of the emotions I am feeling are similar to yours. So I'm just going to be going over what went wrong in the series and what they can do better. I'm going to be talking about a key player in the offense who is struggling right now and why him turning things around could make a huge difference when it comes to the potential playoff push. And also, I'm going to be just discussing whether they can turn it around as a team and my thoughts on what the Red Sox need to do moving forward. So, welcome to another episode of Locked On Red Sox. Thank you for making the show your first listen of every day. Obviously, very, very much less than ideal what went on in Oakland. I mean, there's very few words that you can really use to describe that series overall. Good vibes going into the series after taking 2 from the Cubs in Chicago and then going into the series with Oakland and feeling like it should be 3 free wins. Essentially, win the first game in shutout fashion. And the pitching was fantastic. Nick Pivetta looked great. And just a lot of good vibes going on after the first game. And then they go into game 2 and the offense is completely non-existent. Very, very frustrating game. Some defensive deficiencies as well, which really made them look like the Red Sox of old that we've seen for a good portion of the beginning of the season. And then obviously game 3 takes place, and I feel like they were going to bounce back after game 2, and that just didn't happen. And Brayan Bello had one of his worst starts of the season. So what happened in that series? I mean, what went wrong for the Red Sox in Oakland to the point where they couldn't take 2 of 3 from the worst team in baseball? This is a series that the Red Sox have to win if they want to stay in the wild card race and convince the front office that they're worth buying for at the deadline. Because honestly, this team has pulled this too much this season where we'll get excited and feel like they have that type of potential, and then they'll just go back into what they had previously been doing. So as a Red Sox fan, it's very, very frustrating to get really excited and feel like they finally turned that corner for them to then have a series like this that they just had. Brayan Bello, I mean, he was due for a start like that. He picked a very, very bad day for that to happen in what felt like a must-win game. But his numbers are very different when he's pitching night games versus day games, as interesting as that is. So he's pitched 5 day games, and he has a 732 earned run average in those games with 2 losses. Whereas in night games, he's had 11 of those starts, and he's 7-3 with a 239 ERA. So it's like night and day, literally, for him. He's obviously so much more comfortable in night games, which is why I'm not very moved by this start that he did had. He's a very, very solid pitcher, and by no means am I worried about him moving forward. I just think he was due for a bad start, and obviously it came at such a less than ideal time. But I just want to remind you that the Braves, who are the best team in baseball right now and really looking like a true championship caliber team, lost a series to Oakland. I'm not saying that's an excuse and makes it any better that the Red Sox lost the series, but it does prove the point that it is baseball and any team could go out there on any given day and win a game, because at the end of the day, they are all professionals. And if a team has a bad day, the other team can go out and win that game. So it really goes to show that that's why they play the games, because you really don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, the Red Sox should have been able to win this game and this series, more or less. So obviously with Bello, he only got through 4 innings, which rarely happens for him. It was the first time since May 30th, which is when he pitched against the Reds, and he also got pulled after 4 then, but it snapped a streak of 7 consecutive starts of 6+ innings. So he really has been pitching well. I'm not too moved by this start. I think he'll bounce back completely fine in his next outing, and it just really wasn't his day. And also, I mean, one of the frustrating things for me too about the series was the A's made 4 errors in the 3rd game of that series, and the Red Sox couldn't capitalize enough. They were able to capitalize a couple times with the pickoff errors, but for the most part, they should have been able to score some more runs and get more out of the lack of solid defense that the A's were portraying in that game, and they just didn't. And that's what makes it really frustrating for me, because this series was within reach for the Red Sox, and especially in Game 3, they had opportunities to be able to win that game, and it felt like Oakland was really handing it to the Red Sox, and they couldn't capitalize. They are 20-21 against teams under 500, but 31-25 against teams 500 or better. They really have played down to their competition a lot this season. It's quite frustrating, to say the least. So they need to stop doing that. And this is really just a tough series, because where is the front office supposed to go from here? Because what do they look at this team and see? Like, when they came out of the All-Star break and they took that series against the Cubs and they were playing really good baseball prior to the All-Star break, if I'm the front office, I'm looking at that team and saying, okay, this team might have potential, and I'm looking to add some pieces that could really help enhance this team in multiple capacities. And now you look at this team and you're like, well, they just lost a series against the worst team in baseball. Is it worth investing time and energy into adding pieces for this team to just continue to be inconsistent and have different people just shutting off offensively on any given day? I think, late in the game, when Casas came in to pinch hit for Yu Chang, despite the fact that he struck out in that at bat, I don't hate that move at all. I think it was the right move to go to him, because Chang just was not hitting. And he offensively has been brutal, especially in these last couple series since the All-Star break. It's hard for me to fully hate on Yu Chang, because his defense is really good and it truly has saved the Red Sox, and there aren't better options at shortstop right now. But he is not the best hitter, which we all knew. But that'll be better when people come back from injury. So I don't hate that move. I don't think that, there was an overly amount of poor managing in the series. I think Alex Cora, overall did a decent job. I know people were mad that Duran didn't play in Game 3, which I understand, but he doesn't have good numbers against lefties, so they put Robin instead. And I like Ref Snyder. I'm a fan, and he hits really, really well against lefties. Duran, I still think, needs to get more exposure against lefties, but this series was just highly disappointing, and it should have been a series they were able to win, and they should have. And at the end of the day, they should have won this series, because the schedule gets tough from here, and it's, they have to win some games, because they are still so close to the wild card, but are they close enough where they can get over that hump and just play good baseball? Because at the end of the day, everything about that series, especially the last game, was maddening, because you can't lose Game 2 and go into Game 3 and play like that. It just cannot happen. Coming up, I'm going to be talking about somebody who did contribute to, those 2 losses and has not been good lately, but has been a huge factor in the Red Sox offense this year. Alex Verdugo. I'm going to try to digest and kind of talk about why he might be going through the slump that he's going through and what he needs to do to turn things around. Are you a car person? Because I am certainly not. And I always need assistance when it comes to my car. So eBay Motors definitely has you covered. There's no stress. They'll make things so easy in terms of the process. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Head to eBay Motors and really allow them to help you. They will be of a huge help to you, and I know that I've benefited greatly from their services. So obviously Alex Verdugo has been slumping significantly lately. In his last 10 games, he's 6 for 32 with a 188 average and 5 strikeouts. It's just a yikes moment for him. He's a lot of swings and misses, a lot of weak ground balls hit right at people. He's not waiting for his pitch, and he's not putting together good at bats. He, in general, has had a ton of hits. He has 97 hits on the season with 39 RBIs. And one of the things I really like about Verdugo that makes him such a pertinent part of this Red Sox lineup is he's a great example of the type of player who doesn't hit for power, but rather hits to get on base and really does what he can to make the most of his at-bat. I think that's something that's very, very valuable in baseball and can serve a team really well. And for Verdugo, with the fact that he's really good at that, I think makes him a standout hitter in general for the Red Sox on the season. He has a 353 on base percentage to kind of back that up. I do really feel like there's a noticeable difference in the Red Sox offense when he isn't hitting well. He brings an energy to the Red Sox offense that helps feed a chain reaction with everybody else. So if Alex Verdugo gets a hit or gets on base, a lot of other players seem to be hitting. And it is weird because certain players do give off that vibe and that energy that everybody else feeds off of. And I feel like Verdugo is really one of those players that's in that category where a lot of other players on the team are fueled by his energy. And the fact that he isn't hitting well right now puts the Red Sox in a tough spot. I mean, he's definitely due for a bounce back. He will have one. I'm fully confident he'll turn things around. And I do believe that will happen starting at Fenway this weekend. I think he's about to have a big homestand coming up here. And one of the biggest reasons I believe that is because I think the All-Star break partly kind of messed with him, because the All-Star break can be good for some players, but it also can be really, really bad for others. And I would put Verdugo in the category of players that the All-Star break was not good for, because sometimes if you have too long of a break like that, you kind of get out of the mode that you were in and you check out a little bit, and then you come back and you might be struggling to find your feel again at the plate. I think that's one of the biggest issues here with Verdugo. I do trust that he'll find it again. Also, being on the West Coast is definitely a factor in this too, because a big road trip like that can be tiring and taxing on a team. So, they leave after the All-Star break, they go to the Cubs, they then go to Oakland to play the A's, and with late start times. And so mentally that can mess with a player, and also physically with their body. So I think for Verdugo, this off day is going to be really good for him. And he's going to go into the weekend series against the Mets feeling better than ever. And I really think he's going to turn things around then. And I do feel like him turning things around will really help the offense in general. I mean, we saw the offense doing what they're supposed to be doing in game 1 of the series against Oakland, and then they were non-existent in game 2. And you really have to tip your cap to Medina, the A's pitcher, in game 2, because he absolutely shoved. I mean, he really, really pitched well. And obviously you look on paper and he's not that good of a pitcher. He has an ERA over 6 on the season, but that goes to show that your ERA doesn't always tell the full story. Sometimes it really is about matchups, and he might have a better time against certain lineups rather than others based on the style of the hitters and his pitching style. So you have to give credit where it's due. He looked really, really good in game 2 against the Red Sox and really, really shut down the offense. Yoshida still is continuing to hit. He's a fun player to watch. Justin Turner is still hitting, so he also is a fun player to watch. The Red Sox did capitalize on a couple Oakland errors in game 3, but Alex Verdugo really is going to be one of those biggest keys to me when I look forward at the Red Sox right now and what they have to do to turn things around. He is the type of player that I'm putting in that category. I've just noticed with him, he seems a little bit more lost at the plate. He's having trouble identifying pitches, knowing what to swing at and what not to swing at. Yes, he's gotten a couple borderline calls with strikes, but that doesn't really make a difference to me. I'm looking at it as, is it fixable? Absolutely. I think he's too good of a hitter not to fix it. And we've seen a lot of dominance from Verdugo on the offensive side of the ball for the majority of the season. And I really did mean it when I said he should have been an all-star, and I feel like he got snubbed. And he's having a fantastic season, both on offense and defense. But when we're missing that offensive spark from him, it can throw off things with the rest of the lineup, and it can really appear like the Red Sox just aren't doing things as well. So he needs to be physically and mentally there. And I do think it makes a bigger difference for the team than it appears, because the Oakland series in general, to me, brought back a lot of mistakes from earlier on that I felt the Red Sox were starting to cut down on. Like even what I shared about them significantly underperforming against under 500 baseball teams. That's something that, for one, has got to change as they head into this next, 60 games or whatever it is, to finish the season. But also, they have to be able to recognize, who their competition is and be able to kind of get the job done when they need to. And you can notice a different energy in that Oakland series. Some of those mistakes I thought they were fixing. The defense was starting to look a lot better, and they were starting to play better against teams that weren't playing well, and Oakland included. I mean, they swept Oakland at Fenway prior to that. So I thought that was going to be a lot of what we saw in this second series when they were in Oakland. I thought it was going to be a lot of Red Sox domination again, but it really goes to show that circumstances happen at any time and you never know what's going to happen, and that's why they play the games. But it's certainly disappointing. I'd like to see Alex Verdugo get his swing back, because when he's on, he really is making things happen at the plate. He's hitting all over the ballpark, and he is the type of player that can really help fuel a fire in the rest of the offense, because when he's hitting well, the Red Sox as a whole seem to be hitting well. So I'd like to see him turn things around sooner rather than later. I do think he starts to turn things around back on the homestand. I think, like I said, environment is huge for hitters, and he's developed a really comfortable place at Fenway is what it seems like to me. He's gotten really used to hitting there, and I think he's gotten himself more and more acclimated to Fenway and more comfortable there. And so I think being off of the road trip and back at home is going to serve him well. So I really trust that he'll turn it around. But if he doesn't turn it around quickly, it could be tough for the Red Sox to, get back into what we saw in the Cubs series in game 1 of the Oakland series, because he is a good portion of the offense this season. And obviously there's a lot of people who, didn't perform offensively in the series against Oakland, but Verdugo has been in this slump for quite a bit of time now. So that needs to change. And I think the Red Sox will be in a lot better shape when it does. Coming up, I'm going to answer the question of whether Boston can turn it around. Was this a fluke series or just a bad series, or is this a problem that the Red Sox have to, live with for the rest of the season? Is this just who they are? So I'm going to be talking about all of that coming up. Don't forget to check out Locked On Red Sox on your favorite podcast platform. Follow at LO_Red Sox on Twitter, and share it with your friends. Comment, leave a review, leave a rating, all of the good stuff. We're heading into, that last portion of the season where teams are really fighting for spots. So the show is going to be here with you every day to break down things. Where are the Red Sox at compared to the other teams in their competition, which, by the way, the fact that all those teams ahead of them lost on Tuesday night and they couldn't capitalize and win is also irritating. So that was another factor that had me annoyed in the series. But check out the show every day. Share it with your friends. Check out Locked On MLB as we head further and further into the playoff race and as we get down to the wire of who's going to be in and who's not. So check out Locked On MLB as well on any podcast platform. And we will be here every day with your favorite Red Sox content. So the age-old question now becomes, the Red Sox obviously have had an up and down season to the point where we've had to ask ourselves this question over and over again, which is, can Boston turn it around? I mean, can they? Was this series against Oakland just a definition of who they are, or did they just have a bad series? Because it's always hard to know for sure with this team. And, I'm going to sit here and be an optimist for a minute because sometimes it's hard to do that. And I think right now people need to hear why I feel this way. I feel like the Red Sox will turn it around. There were things I noticed in this A series that could have been prevented, but it's not the character or nature of how the Red Sox have been playing in July. I mean, they've been playing really good baseball this month overall. I don't think this series against Oakland is an indication of that. My prediction is they're going to come back and they're going to take 2 of 3 from the Mets at home, and then they're going to split with Atlanta because that's just what this team does. They play well against good teams, and the Mets obviously have been struggling this year, but we all know that on paper they're better than they have been. So I think that they're going to come in here and they're going to take 2 of 3 from the Nets or the Mets, and then split with the Braves, and then everything's going to appear like it's fine again because people are going to say, well, they just played well against 2 good teams. And then the vibes will start to be positive again. I think this Oakland series obviously was tough because it's tough going on the West Coast in general and playing those games. But Bello really set the tone in game 3. And that's the first reason why I feel like they'll turn it around, because he's not going to have that type of start that often. That's not who Brayan Bello is. We all know that. I think that was just a one-time thing. He was due for a start like that. So him alone will improve and turn things around the next time he pitches. So that's a big reason why I feel like they'll turn it around. Also, John Schreiber is coming back, by the way. He's doing one more rehab start today, and then he is scheduled to be activated for that Braves series, which is huge for the bullpen because there have been a few guys who have been working a lot lately out of the pen. So to get Schreiber back in the mix, who has been pretty good with the Red Sox, could be huge for them. Prior to going on the IL, he was 1-0 with a 2.12 ERA and 21 strikeouts. So that is a noticeable thing to me that could really, really help this bullpen, help relieve some guys who have been pitching a lot. And he's also overall in his time with the Red Sox been pretty reliable. So getting him back is another thing to be excited about with the Red Sox, because I think it's just only going to strengthen the bullpen from what it already is. Also, Winckowski, I haven't been sold on all season. I think he has his struggles, but he does deserve a lot of credit for his performance in game 3 against the A's, because he found a way to pitch 2 scoreless innings, even though there was traffic on the bases. So props to him for that. But Schreiber coming back, I think, will definitely help enhance that bullpen. And Joely Rodriguez, he's been showing improvement since coming off the IL. I mean, he was a bit shaky in game 3 against Oakland too, but who wasn't? But good defense helped him get out of a jam with runners on first and third and nobody out. And then just some acrobatic moves by Kike and Justin Turner helped to get out of that inning. So he overall has been looking better since he came off the injured list. So I feel more confident with that, knowing that he has been pitching better. And I think he has a lot of upside as we approach the rest of this season. Also, overall, there are a lot of people still, hitting and showing that they are still present and still here. Yoshida and Turner, who I mentioned already, are very, very much in that category of being present. Jaron Duran hasn't fallen off since the All-Star break. So that's promising. So I feel like the offense is still there. I mean, we did see it. We saw it primarily in game 1 against Oakland. They just had a bad offensive game in game 2. Every offense is going to have that happen to them. It's baseball. It's a long season, and it just is what it is. Teams aren't going to be able to have 162 games of their offense being all on point every game and hitting a lot. So they get a pass for game 2 in my book offensively because they really have been hitting well lately, and every team is due for performances like that offensively. So the fact that they got blanked in game 2 obviously is embarrassing because it was against Oakland, but the offense is going to have games like that. But I truly feel like the offense is still there, and they're going to bounce back and show that they're still one of the best offenses in baseball. I think the series against Oakland is not an indication of the second half Red Sox. I think the second half Red Sox are on a mission, and they're still going to continue to play good baseball. To me, the best thing I can say really is, as frustrating as this is, we have to try to just brush off this series against Oakland and move on and focus on that wild card spot because it's still very much in reach. And, Oakland has nothing to play for at this point. Like there's no pressure on them. So oftentimes that can backfire on another team that has more pressure on them. So to me, just have to, brush this series off and get back to playing Red Sox baseball. I still have trust in Paxton. I think he'll take care of business in the first game against the Mets. I think this Red Sox offense that we've been seeing for so far the second half and even heading into the All-Star break is the Red Sox offense. We know that they can hit. Even Connor Wong was showing some promise overall recently in the last few weeks. So to me, I look at this series against Oakland and I don't see a lot of major concerns. Obviously, Yu Chang made a couple defensive errors at shortstop in game 2, but with reinforcements coming at shortstop, that also is an exciting thing for the Red Sox. So they're starting to get people back from injury. I don't really feel like they made mistakes that aren't fixable, and they have fixed a lot of their mistakes already. So I just think when this comes down to this at the end of the day, this series against Oakland was just a bad series, and I feel like the Red Sox will be able to bounce back and play Red Sox baseball again because the offense in particular, I'm not really moved by the fact that they had that bad game against Oakland offensively because the Red Sox offense can hit, and we know that. So I feel like because of that alone, that gives me faith that the way they're going to play is going to be much better when they go back home. I don't see much of this as pending concerns to, be worried about. I understand the frustration with this series. I very much am frustrated myself. But I believe that they will turn it around. I think they know they're in a spot right now of really having to convince the front office that they're worth buying for. Kenley Jansen's already made his feelings clear that he wants the Red Sox to buy, and Chris Martin supported him on that. So if they want that, then continue to play and continue to perform because that's what's going to convince them. And losing this series is a tough look to the front office if you want to be a team that fights for a wild card spot and have them get you those reinforcements to help you do that. So I do think they'll bounce back at home. I, again, am not very, very moved by this A's series. If this was in the first half with the just up and down Red Sox that we saw, I would say I am a little more concerned, but they've played a lot better down the stretch the last few weeks where I am really starting to feel like they are a better team than what they showed in Oakland. I truly believe that. And I think, things are starting to come together, getting some key pieces back, especially Schreiber out of the pen, to help rest some of the bullpen guys who have had to work a lot lately since they're doing bullpen games on 2 out of the 5 rotation days. That's going to make a difference too. So try to keep your head up, as frustrating as this is. It's a new day, new series starting on Friday against the Mets at home. If they can take care of business and win that series, then we're rolling again. Thanks for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every day. As always, go Red Sox. Believe in this team. I think they've given us reason to now. Let's just move on and hopefully have some more fun conversations going forward. Catch you on the flip side.